minimalism. People are like, the BMW is holding me back, my large mansion is holding me back from being a minimalist. And I remember thinking, what? I would love to have a BMW and a mansion. I could definitely, don't worry, I could still figure out a way to be a minimalist in a mansion and a BMW. Hey there, my handsome and pretty little Cobras, and welcome back to the Cobra's Nest. For those of you who are new, my name is Mignon Cobra, and this is gonna be another anti-minimalism video. This one is actually part of my Life After Minimalism series. I've been doing a lot of reflections on what my minimalism has meant for me and what it means moving forward. And one of the things that I wanted to address today, and that is today's video, is addressing this idea of toxic minimalism and this idea of the mediocrity of minimalism. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Let's get it, let's go. Woo. So I did research, and this concept or idea of why minimalism might not necessarily be as great as people told it to be. I'm going to be addressing 5 issues, or discussing, just bringing to the table this discussion, examining and unfolding this idea of the mediocrity of minimalism. Okay, so number 1, cutting off essentials. One of the criticisms of minimalism, or when it enters a realm of toxicity, is that you start cutting into the essentials. It's like a slow progression. You cut non-essentials and you keep cutting, and then you get used to the habit of cutting, and then you get to a point where you're at your essentials, and so you start cutting the essentials, and that's where life becomes mediocre. And I know that everyone might argue, well, you're not even supposed to go there in the first place, and I definitely agree. I don't think we should be going there in the first place, but that's not to say that this does not happen in real life, and I can attest to that because personally I have definitely cut on the essentials. I have never really lived with abundance, so for me, I have only been ever practicing minimalism and cutting into essentials, and that's probably why my channel has been very popular, because I'm really good at cutting on essentials. There's a lot of things that I don't do that most people do. It occurred to me that this year, with even more of a spending power, I still live as if I'm below the poverty line, and it's kind of like, well, no wonder I've been not that happy in my minimalism. I wasn't even aware. I really did think that I was, being a loyal minimalist follower, and I was doing minimalism right. I need to stop cutting from the essentials. So I'm kind of in a stage right now, Life After Minimalism, where I'm adding more back into my life. That's currently where I'm at. I'm adding in. That's exciting. All right, number 2, forcing terrible living conditions if you don't have to. I'm so guilty of this. I have definitely taken a lot of these minimal principles and just turned them into just like life standards. We were looking at apartments, and there were some living conditions that Will was like horrified when we'd scroll through the pictures. And to me, I was like, yeah, still better than the apartment I lived in welfare. Just like my living standard conditions were just so bare bone that I was like, I was willing. It's not even willing. Like, to me, that just seemed like normality. And I was like, hey, and we can save even more money. Will was like, no, we're not living like that. And Will actually was the one who found this gorgeous apartment, so I'm really happy that sometimes the non-minimalist in the relationship called the shots on this one. Kind of like an aha moment where just because I had lived a certain way doesn't mean I have to continue living that way now because I have the choice. And it was really freeing, because it was like, oh man, thank God I'm not any lesser of a minimalist, not lesser of a person if I decide to live in better. Okay, number 3, decreasing your income. I've read a lot of people talk about this. A lot of boomer millionaires talk about this idea that they don't really agree with minimalism ideology that says you should work less to live a more fulfilling life. Like, I honestly don't know where this all started, but anyway, the idea is that in minimalism, one of the ideas is that you should work less. This toxic minimalism is kind of addressing that and saying that like you shouldn't decrease your income if maybe you don't have to. Or it's a really deep notion, because it's one that's been very critical to my minimalism identity. I definitely do practice a lot of like free time, or using my time that doesn't involve making money, because it's actually fulfilling. And it's this idea that, okay, well, maybe I should work a little bit more. Maybe I should make a little bit more money, because maybe I am entering the realm of toxic minimalism. Maybe I am putting my financial state of being in jeopardy because I'm trying to follow some sort of minimalism ideology. Okay, number 4, decreasing your dreams. Inside of toxic minimalism is decluttering your dreams, and this is something that I kind of saw in the trend of like minimalism helped me declutter my fantasy self, and that's something that I refuse to do. I've actually made a video that's the opposite. Minimalism helped me embrace my fantasy self. I use my minimalism to fully indulge myself in my fantasy, and my fantasy is the the rich Asian Weibo girl look. So I was like, I may not be a rich Weibo girl, but that doesn't mean that I can't indulge in this fantasy. So I did. I bought myself knee-high boots. I have bought myself certain purses that I feel like fit that aesthetic. A lot of Weibo girls have long, natural black hair. Another thing is very minimal but beautiful makeup. That's something also that I indulged in. I do my makeup. I do, as you guys can see, I have very glamorous nails. That is also not very typical of minimalism, but it's in line with me fulfilling my fantasy. But anyway, coming back to this idea that decluttering decluttering your dreams, reducing your dreams is one of the criticisms of toxic minimalism. And I definitely have to agree. There's plenty of times where it's kind of started to get to the stage where I was just kind of getting used to decluttering my dreams. I felt like my channel can't be anything but minimalism. I'm just gonna hear and tell everybody simplify, simplify, simplify. Let's all reject. You know what? Like, let's just not do anything. Let's just attach a catheter to our guts and just lie in bed and die. I definitely entered the realm of toxic minimalism, and that's kind of why I'm taking a very big break from it. As I've mentioned, I'm taking a year off, so this video, it's only been like a couple days since I quit, but still, that's something that is very refreshing to realize that I don't have to declutter my dreams. I definitely indulge in things that make me happy. Okay, number 5, living a modest life if you don't have to. This is one of the criticisms of toxic minimalism, is that a lot of people kind of strive for a humble living or the like stoic living as something that is supposed to be part of your minimalism. Definitely practice that. I have talked a lot about not only the physical declutters but also the mental declutters, and one of the mental declutters was this idea that I kind of rejected a very comfortable life in exchange for the Viking life, and I've lived very stoic, and I did that out of financial need. I had to pay off my student loan, so I really responsibly I had no choice. But coming back to that is glad that if I don't need to, I actually don't have to. And it's funny, you can say this for other people, but sometimes it's hard to see it in yourself. I remember when I would read in the subreddit forum of minimalism, people are like, the BMW is holding me back, my large mansion is holding me back from being a minimalist. And I remember thinking, what? I would love to have a BMW and a mansion. I could definitely, don't worry, I could still figure out a way to be a minimalist in a mansion and a BMW. But everybody's standard is different, right? So I guess for myself, the things that I felt that I could afford to have, I'm not going to have them in order to be a good minimalist. Like, this restriction is part of being a good minimalist. And so the article's saying that that's actually just being mediocre. It's actually morally incorrect to not indulge in certain things if you have the opportunity to and you want to, only because others don't. Like, it's akin to telling a starving individual, since you can't eat, I too, even though I can, won't eat along with you. So the two of us are just gonna starve. I know it's a really extreme example, but it definitely illustrated the point to me. I remember thinking to myself that if I could afford some of the luxury bags that I wanted, I definitely would not feel guilty. I would definitely feel like, yeah, of course, my minimalism says I can have the best. And I remember once I started being able to afford better, like more Coach purses, I actually remember thinking, oh no, I'm not being a good minimalist. So I think this is a very helpful tip, that you don't have to live a modest life if you have the opportunity not to, and you shouldn't feel guilty just because others can't. So that is me addressing this idea of toxic minimalism. Comment down below if this resonated with you. Thank you, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.